Hi, guys. My name is Abby Kraus, and I'm going to be one of your co-instructors for this prac class. Um, I'm looking forward to kind of being able to help, I think, a chunk of you, right, as you guys prepare for summer intensives. So today, I just wanted to share a little bit about Netiquette and some success for online learning, since you guys will be taking some online classes. Just a little bit about myself before I start. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor in Utah, live in Salt Lake City. I've been practicing for several years and currently work in home with families and primarily kids and teenagers, working on a various amount of different diagnoses or struggles that families and the clients are going through. I am also currently a doctoral student at Adams State in the Counselor Education and Supervision program. Okay, well, let's jump into this. Okay. So, netiquette, really what that means is just kind of appropriate behavior or kind of appropriate way of interacting on the internet. And so why this is important is because it's a different way of interacting with your classmates and your professors than maybe it would be if you're in a traditional classroom. However, there are still guidelines that are going to be helpful for you to understand that are going to, I guess, help you be more successful as you move forward in your online learning. So the first guideline is going to be remember the human. When we're communicating electronically, we tend to really kind of only interact with the computer screen. And so sometimes that can really affect that we're not really seeing people's body language, their gestures. We might not be able to read through really someone's intentions or their tones if you're having an email or a discussion board. And I think sometimes with that, it becomes easier to really forget that you're interacting with other human beings. Another thing that can cause trouble with that is that there's really room for error and misunderstandings in different email exchange or Blackboard discussions. So a few tips I just want you to remember. One thing is, would you say it out loud, right? Read through your emails, read through your discussion boards, kind of read it in maybe the tone that you're, and think about the intention of what you're trying to get across, and think, would I say this out loud? Okay, another tip is really try to use appropriate greetings, suffix, and kind of signatures in your emails. As you would if you were meeting with somebody, hi, Abby, how are you? Try to do those in your emails as well. Again, use your pleases and thank yous. As you would probably when you're interacting with someone in person, use that similar etiquette. Last thing is make sure you proofread your emails, again, to clarify your tone and make sure that you're getting across the message that you're wanting to say. Next thing is to be respectful. A big thing to be aware of is abuse and power over the internet, theft, harassment, and bullying, while online is still considered those same things. Like I said, again, is it can be easy to really lose sight of a person. Remember, we're still interacting with people and we don't want to engage in those behaviors. Another thing is to continue to acknowledge cultural differences, be respectful of different cultures, and tolerant of different cultures. Those things should remain even in an online format. Last thing is to respect other people's privacy. We want to avoid sharing any other person's private, personal or professional information. Same thing is we want to also be diligent about trying to secure people's information. So, obviously we have passwords for Adams State. If you have any other things that are, possibly other people's information or even your own, make sure you have a password protected place that it's on your computer. And a last tip for some netiquette is to engage in a scholarly manner. We really want to remember that even though we maybe are doing Blackboard discussions or emails, those are still considered scholarly assignments and scholarly engagements. So make sure you're utilizing proper language, grammar, and spelling. Use clear and concise language as well. Remember that our emails and our discussion boards are, like I said, for scholarly use, and you're interacting in a professional setting. We really want to make sure that we're also using concise language, because trying to decipher through a lot of grammar mistakes or misspellings really takes up a lot of time for the reader and can really distract from your main message that you're trying to say. Avoid slang terms, not saying sup or something like that. Again, trying to engage in a professional manner. And the last thing is, I think, really being cautious of humor and sarcasm, because we lose the tone of maybe some of our messages through writing because we're not really talking with people. Humor and sarcasm can come off sometimes in a very misunderstood way, and it can offend people, can cause conflicts. Really want to lean towards being polite and being direct. If there is some time that you are using it, please be cautious to make sure that you're explaining through that so that there's not going to be a misunderstanding. A next little thing I want to touch on in regards to kind of netiquette, as you can see, there's a man, Lewis, he created the right way to communicate online. And really what that, it's an acronym, but really it was advice for communicating online that was going to help someone be successful in their communication. It was originally built for teachers, but I think it can be used for students, and I think several other people are using it for students as well. So the first in the right way is warmth. Making sure that we're trying to be warm online in a way of reminding others and ourselves that we're engaging with people. Again, remembering the human versus just a computer screen. We also want to be responsive, trying to be attentive and responsive to messages and emails in a timely manner. Really with Blackboard and emails, it's going to be helping ourselves create a routine of checking in on those messages, checking on those discussion boards, so that we are being able to reply and respond as quickly as we can. Inquisitiveness. Defensiveness can be reduced if people ask questions rather than make statements. And that's pretty similar to the next one, which is tentativeness. A question framed in a tentative manner reduces defensiveness and can contribute to valuable information. So, instead of saying, you're wrong because of this, it can be, I wonder if this would be more helpful, or I wonder if this is a different way of looking at things. You can see the stark contrast in those two statements. And a last right way of communicating online is to remember empathy. We always want to put ourselves in other people's shoes, put ourselves in the shoes of the audience that is going to be reading what we're writing. And again, that is to remember that we are interacting with humans. Okay, I'm now going to go through just a few bits of some tips that Teresa O'Halloran has suggested, and I also came up with in regards to Blackboard discussions and those bullet discussion points. So the first thing is to always remember to use appropriate Blackboard posting. So we really want to make sure first that we're responding to the correct modules in the assignments and the discussion threads. And the second thing is, when posting online, we want to make sure that we know what the post is and who it's from. There's going to be lots of people replying, and it can be easy to get lost in all of that. So when you're posting, make sure you put your last name in the title. So for example, if it was my post and I was the first one, it's going to be Krause, an introduction. Next thing is to make sure that we are posting directly onto Blackboard and not posting attachments. While it might be easier to type something into a Word document, do not upload that. Really the reason why is it makes reading, being and engaging kind of cumbersome. So suggestion would be if you are writing in a text or Word document, which can be helpful, that you're just copy and pasting that directly into a post on Blackboard. The next tip is going to be being thoughtful in your feedback. So really we encourage each of you to provide concrete and specific feedback. We want you guys to provide also additive feedback, meaning feedback that's going to be in addition to what's already been said or to the thread you're replying to, stuff that's going to be further information. We really want to avoid some of those more agreeance posts, right? The me too or I agrees. If you're doing that, you need to be adding some feedback in as well. We want to hear from everybody. Another thing I'm going to suggest is to really read all the comments that have been previously posted in order to possibly avoid kind of like similar duplicated posts. Also, it really shows that you're engaging with all of your classmates and all of the readers and adding in pertinent and important information. A last thing is if you're replying to a classmate's question or something that a classmate said, it can be really helpful if you take just a few lines of the quote of the classmate in regards to what you're going to be replying to. That helps the other readers not have to go sort through the thread in order to find the thing you're referencing to. A next tip for Blackboard is to be professional. Similar to what I was talking about with Netiquette, is we really want to make sure we're proofreading for clarity, spelling, and grammar. Okay, this is a scholarly assignment. So we're not just writing as though we're talking to friends. We're trying to write in a way that's going to be helpful for the readers, but also show that you're engaging in a scholarly way. Another thing is do not write in all caps. All caps tends to seem as though you were yelling through a post, and that can create some defensiveness. A last thing is to make sure you cite your information that's not yours. So like I said before, this is a professional scholarly assignment. If you're utilizing information that's not yours, just make sure to have that citation in there and to reference the person's information that you're using. Last tips are to be sensitive and empathetic. Remember that there are so many of you guys that are going to be working together, and we're all very individual, right? And so we're going to have differing opinions. And a lot of these assignments are really made to kind of explore some of those differing opinions. Instead of really, I guess, attempting to maybe be just stuck in our own thoughts, this is an opportunity for you to expand your thinking, expand your understanding through interacting with your classmates and professors. If you do feel the need to disagree, we really request that you do so in a respectful way and acknowledge the valid points of the classmates' arguments. Remember that we are all entitled to our own perspective. And even if we disagree, we all can still respect that we might have different opinions in a respectful way. Okay, so my last thing I'm going to go over really quickly are just a few little tips for being a successful online learner. Like I said, can be really different than the traditional classroom. That tends to be a set time, hold you accountable. You're interacting with your classmates and professors in person. And so while there's a lot of benefits to online learning, there are also, because of those differences between that and traditional classroom, can also be some troubles. And so I want to give you just a few tips that can help you with some of those troubles. So first thing, like I said, is to treat it as a real course. Although there is flexibility, maybe when you're getting assignments done and when you can choose that you're going to work, we really want to encourage you to discipline yourself to kind of sit down and actually do it. And so that's going to go into the next one, is to hold yourself accountable, setting goals and checking in with yourself on when you're working. The amount of work you want to do in a certain day or a certain time frame is going to be really helpful for you. Like I said, is oftentimes in traditional classrooms, you might be getting verbal cues or reminders about different assignments. And sometimes in online, it's really, you're not getting that same engagement. And so you need to hold yourself accountable for getting assignments in and getting the work done. Some tips for that can be creating calendars, right? Calendars of the important assignments and when they're due, creating calendars of this is the time I have open, and so this is when I'm going to do my work. Setting up reminders, whether that's on your phone, sticky note, whatever works for you, in order to figure out how to remind yourself that this is maybe your time to work, or this is something that's going to be due. Another thing is can be to really enlist some people that are important in your life, whether it's another classmate, a spouse, friend, parent, to help remind you if maybe you're, struggling with those things, or you just wanted an extra thing, an extra person to keep you accountable. Next thing is to practice time management. Again, is that there is flexibility in when you get the work done. And sometimes that can be really helpful for people, but for others, it can also be really hard because we might have so much time, there might not be that verbal acknowledgement of when things are due. We can lose sight of it, right? Or we find that, even though we have all this time, we don't really set aside time to do the work. And so some tips for this are to look early on in the syllabus, like I said, and make note of major assignments and when they're due. Another thing is to always factor in prior commitments that could get in the way of working, right? If you got a vacation or if you have a job, where is the time that you can dedicate to actually getting your work done? Another thing is to try to create a weekly schedule that you can follow. Similar it would be to maybe going into a traditional classroom. That time set aside, try to create time set aside for you to work. Okay, next thing is going to be create a regular study space and stay organized. So completing your work in a regular space can really help you kind of build that routine. Similar to, like I said, with a traditional classroom, is we have one classroom we go to that we know this is where we work. I also encourage you guys to try to find that for yourselves, so it becomes part of your routine. With that, I would encourage you to experiment and discover areas that really help you optimize your potential in the work that you're doing. For example, I know that I really can't work at home. So I've tried different coffee shops, different areas that I go to, and found some of the ones that work best for me, and then I get most of my work done. Another thing is to really kind of know where all the important dates, all the important files, and all your important information is, in order to make sure that you're keeping your routine, right? If you're in one study space, make sure you have everything with you in order to stay organized. Last thing is also to make sure that you have high-speed internet connection, right? You're going to be doing most of your stuff online. If you don't have internet connection, that can be really hard and can get in the way of doing your work. If you don't work at home, make sure that you have your books with you or the things that you are going to need to get your work completed. I can't tell you how many times I've done that I've walked out of the house and gone to the place that I'm going to study and I don't have the necessary reading material that I need. That really does cut up a chunk of time of getting work done and can sometimes actually really inhibit some of your motivation too. Another thing is to bring headphones for listening to lectures or discussions, especially if you're going to be in a public shared space. Next tip is going to be eliminate distractions. Like I said, is I don't work at home is because there's a lot of distractions for me to do there that are separate from the work I'm doing. Similarly, kind of in this day and age with this wave of technology, it's so much easier for us to just hop onto social media or to watch YouTube or Netflix. And it's, again, because we'll be using our computer to do a lot of our work, it's very easy to kind of transition into that. And so we really have to be accountable, and we have to hold ourselves accountable to not utilize and get sucked into the distractions. So again, as I'm going to say, is to work to figure out an environment that helps eliminate those distractions. Another thing is maybe to consider turning off your phone or notifications on your phone so that doesn't become something you get wrapped up in. And also there are, I've never tried these, but there are 2 websites. It's Cold Turkey or Freedom. And these are website blockers that you can use. Sure, they're free, that you just can indicate certain websites that for that time period, you're blocked from using them. Again, know yourself, know what's going to work best for you, and optimize kind of your efficiency in working and getting the work done. A last tip, I think, is to remember to seek out help. Because we're not meeting maybe with other classmates or the professors in person, it can often feel like we're going at this alone, right? It's up to me, I have to do this. However, we want you to understand that you're still able to reach out for help. It's to classmates, to your professors, if you're not understanding something, in order to create that understanding and not feel overwhelmed. Another thing is for your online platforms, whether it's for Blackboard or if it's, for something else that you're utilizing, there are tutorials online to help you understand how to navigate through them. Another thing is you can reach out to Adams State Technical Services if you're having struggles with understanding some of these online platforms. Again, we do, being tech savvy is important for online learning. However, we don't have to figure that out ourselves. There are different areas and different organizations and people that can help us navigate through that in order to be as successful as we can. Okay. Well, that's the last of what I wanted to go through. If you have any questions on this, please feel free to email me through Blackboard. And I hope this was useful for you, and hope you guys can take away some tips for you to be as successful as possible as you start this journey with us. Great. Thanks, and looking forward to working with you guys.